All right, so uh, passed my 1102 was in exam today. This is what you need to do to pass the 1102 exam. So, one of the biggest issues I ran into when I was taking that exam was I couldn't find any old classmates or I really couldn't find anybody who had took the test recent enough that was going to sit down and explain to me what were some of the common things they went over. And like if you go to some videos, it's gonna tell you to just go over everything and like yeah, you want a general understanding of everything. But at the end of the day, that's not what's gonna help you succeed. What's gonna help you succeed is knowing exactly what you need to hit on, like the things that show up a lot. Cause either otherwise you're gonna be studying, not knowing what the fuck you studying for, and you gonna get anxious constantly doing that because you too busy thinking about okay, I don't know what's on there. I can't find anybody that's gonna tell me it, so I gotta you taking shots in the dark. So what you wanna do? It was like four things primarily: security concepts, and security concepts they're gonna want you to understand how to secure Soho network, removing malware, detecting malware. When you so like if you go to Professor Messer, he got that he has the entire 1102 practice or training course. If you go through his training course, for the malware section and detecting it and removing it, he actually has the steps listed. And that's actually very important because when you take that exam, on the exam, you're going to get sorry, I didn't see my shirt was covering my mic. But on that exam, you're going to see where it gives you a scenario and that scenario is going to put you at one of those steps. And the question is essentially going to be asked, okay, now that you're at step 3, what's step 4? Or now that you did this, what do you do next? So it's important that you understand those steps, what comes before them and what comes after them. So you want to do that. Security concepts, you're going to get a lot of questions asked. And it's going to be a lot of preventative security things. So it won't be necessarily like, oh, this situation happened and now we're in a dire need to fix this. It's going to be more so like, okay, we want to prevent this from happening. Or this has already happened. We fixed it. Now, how do we prevent it going forward? So you want to look up, and I would go through that Professor Messer 1102 training course. That's going to give you all the information you need. I'm just giving you the specific areas that you want to hit on, right? So you want to go on there. Now, as far as cross-site scripting, because he does mention it in there, and there's like different attacks. The main attacks you want to go over. You want to understand ransomware. You want to understand what spyware is. And you want to understand social engineering attacks. You want to understand what they are, how they work, and how they can be prevented. Because it's definitely a question on there where it asks like, you're an IT technician, training a couple of new employees. What should you include in your training program? Or, oh, what should you warn them about in the training program? The answer is going to be social engineering. Because, you can have the most secure network, but it only takes one user to get tripped up and tricked into doing something, and now the whole company is compromised. So you want to go over those security concepts. It's more, but like in general, just go through the security things. The only things you don't really have to hit on that hard are the specific different types of attacks, because they're not gonna ask you a lot about the specific types of attacks, but you will get a fuck ton of questions about like malware prevention, so shit like that. You will get a lot of questions about firewalls. Definitely study up on firewalls. What do they do? How do you go in Windows and access them? Under firewall settings, what are those firewall settings? What do they do? What do they allow you to do? Browser security. That's another thing. Knowing the difference between browser security proxy settings and a firewall. This is gonna be very important. So those are a few things. And then there's a question on there where it asks you, you want to discreetly, and this is actually going to get me into my next thing that you want to go over. There's going to be a question on there that asks you, like, you want to discreetly install, software on multiple devices for, or yeah, multiple devices remotely. And the answer for that one, I think, would be, it's either RDP or VNC. I chose RDP, but to each their own. You definitely want to go over remote accesses and understanding them, how they work, the different risks that come with them, understanding how to secure them. So definitely go over remote accesses. I'm trying to think. Understanding accounting, authorization, and authentication. All right, so understanding the two main ways those are used with Radius and TACACS. Understanding multi-factor authentication. Something you are, something you have, somewhere you are. Or I forgot the other one. I know it's something you have, something you are, something you know, somewhere you are. And there's like two more that I can't think of right now. But you definitely want to understand what that is, and what it's referring to. So like something you know would be like password, PIN, something you are, biometrics, something you have, smart card, hard token, somewhere you are, your location, stuff like that. Okay. Oh, and then okay, yeah, no, I already said that. Okay. So, trying to think, what else did I get asked about a lot? Those were two: remote access, change management. Oh my God, please study change management. Change management and like business best practices. Please go over change management. Change management. You get so many change management questions. Security and change management. Those are the two things you get primarily asked about. So you definitely want to go over change management. Understanding what scope is, the different steps to submitting in the change request process is kind of gonna be like that. What was that we went that I just talked about? Kind of like that thing with the malware where you're gonna be given a scenario, and it's gonna put you at a certain step, and based off of that step, you have to know either what comes next or what comes before it. Is a lot of times gonna be next. I've only ever seen it be next, but you may they may throw you a curveball and be like, well, what comes before that? Understanding what it takes to get a change process submitted, approved. Because I did get a question where one was denied, and you had to figure out why was it denied based off of a list of things that they gave you, and the answer was the end users didn't accept the change process. Understanding the difference between acceptable user policy, uh, and you end user licensing agreement, the different licenses, what they mean, how they work, um, when would you typically see them. Uh, so that's definitely something you want to go over. You do get asked about commands, Linux commands, but I wouldn't too much worry about that. I will go over some like real basic Linux commands. They pretty once you see them, really two, 3 times, you pretty much got it. They're very straightforward. MV move, ls list, dir directory, mdir make directory, change owner, chonw or chown, change owner, cho or chmod, change mod, change the person that moderates it, permissions, things like that. So yeah, you do want to kind of go over those because you will get asked about them, but it isn't that crazy. And then the last like really important thing you want to go over is backups. So it took me a minute to understand the different types of backups, how they worked, and what they are. So once you get an understanding of what they are, how they work, you should be fine. But just go over it. Watch the Professor Messer 1102 training course. He does a really good job showing you exactly how it works and exactly and breaking it down. I'm trying to think. And then just some like quick hitters. You want to understand the different Windows settings. And then you also want to understand what it takes to the difference between an in-place upgrade and an installation, and what it would take to do that. So with that one, you really want to focus more so on the hardware it takes to do either one of those things. Typically, if it's an in-place upgrade, there are no hardware requirements that need to be made in order for it to happen. If it's an installation, there are hardware requirements that you want to make sure your system has before you do that, or before you make the switch, or before you make the install complete. So you want to understand that control panel. You kind of want to go over control panel. Understanding when they use a defragmenter versus a disk cleanup, versus using SFC. Definitely go over that. You will get a bunch of questions on that. And then understanding like least usage. I think that's what it is. Essentially, if a user needs to complete a task, what's the least which account would you give them to complete that task based off of what it is. You want to give them the least amount of privileges possible, but you also want to give them just enough to where they can get the job done. So you definitely want to understand that because you will get asked about it. Now, some Mac stuff does come up. I really only seen like 2, maybe 3 Mac questions. The primary 2 you gonna get is it's gonna be one that says like oh, an app stopped working, and it just it essentially be an app that won't work, and they're like, where do you go on, or what feature or utility do you use on map to close this out? It's gonna be force quit. And then there's gonna be another one where it's like you want to download third party applications on an app or on a Mac, and the answer for that one is going to be privacy, I believe. Unless, I don't know, I don't use Mac, but I think it would be privacy, or it's, if not privacy, then accessibility. But I'm sure it's privacy. Um, so that's that, and then the resources. So I have resources for the Sims, the performance based questions, and then as far as for the actual questions you're gonna see, Brainscape actually has a lot of the questions that you're gonna see verbatim, if not one or two words are off or a couple words are off, but pretty much verbatim is gonna have exactly what you're gonna see on the exam. And then if they don't have it Pluralsight, their practice exams are really good, and they'll have a lot of what you're gonna see on those practice exams, almost verbatim. I think I seen like two or three or four of them that were actually verbatim. And then the last resource you want to use is you really just want to well, Quizlet too. Those Quizlet little quick slideshows or whatever, not slideshows, flashcards on those Linux commands, different types of Windows utilities. But you really want to focus on just the flashcards of those commands. Get through them real quick. You don't need to get the craziest score for the 1102. You just need to get a passing score. I only got a 706 out of 700. Still, when an employer looks, they're not checking to see if I got a fucking 850 or a 701. They're looking to see if I actually just have the certification and if I understand what I'm talking about. So I wouldn't stress too much about the score that you get as long as you pass. But yeah, that's essentially everything you need for the 1102. I know this ain't gonna get probably any views, but to the person that finds it, they're gonna find it. They're gonna see what I'm talking about. They're gonna pass, and then they're gonna come and thank me and probably, hopefully, share the video. But yeah, have a good one. Let me know if you pass.